Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Christine and this is Sketching with Christine. Thank you for joining us. Today we are going to sketch the elephant. All right, so we're going to break it down into basic shapes first. So you can imagine there's an oval shape here and an oval shape for his head, and then we'll work out the legs and the trunk after. All right, so let's start creating. So I'm drawing portrait, so that's up and down. And I'm going to find the center of my page, and I'm going to draw a big oval shape. Okay? It's like an egg oval, but there's no pointy end. And you can notice I'm drawing very loosely. I'm not worried too much about any lines. A lot of these lines are going to be hidden. Okay? This is just giving me an idea of where my shapes are going to be. So this represents the body and the belly, and the head will be another egg shape. This time the egg shape has a point pointing down, and that, as you guessed it, is the beginnings of our trunk. Okay, so there is our head. I am going to erase this line here very lightly. I'm not too worried if you can see a little bit of it, but I do want to draw the head with a clean slate, so I'm going to erase that a little. Okay, so then from there we are going to draw our ears, and we are going to again lightly draw them out, and then we'll add some detail to them in a little bit. So the base shape of them is a triangle, so we are going to draw a base triangle on each side of the ears, and we are going to find a point. So I'm going to go about 1.5 inches out and draw a point, and I will draw my ears. Instead of a straight line though, I am going to curve down on each side. Curve it down. We are going to play with details of the ears in a little bit, so don't worry too much. We are going to cut some of the ear off, but this is just a basic, okay, the basic form. So of course I do the exact same thing on the other side. And again, I'm drawing very lightly, coming out to about 1.5 inches over, and then rounding my triangle. Okay, looks kind of funny right now, but again, these are under drawings. I'm not too worried about the details yet. Now we're going to go over and draw the legs, basic shapes first. Okay, so I'm going to have part of my leg coming right out the bum, slightly curved, and then coming down. And I would say I would give that, if I was to use my finger, a good finger length, an index finger length, round out the bottom, and we want this to be as thick as your finger width. And you can have a slight curve for it to go back up to the body. So there's one leg. And again, this is a YouTube video, so if you find I'm going too fast, hit that pause button and then catch up, and then you can rewind. And that's the great thing. Going live sometimes can be a little difficult because I'm going at a certain pace, and then it's hard to pause and that sort of thing. So you're watching a YouTube video, so you can pause anytime. Alrighty, so there's one leg. I'm gonna skip over 1 centimeter from the belly, and I'm gonna just draw a little dot there so I know where to go. I'm going to, from there, curl in a little bit, and I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to stop just shy of my other leg, and that is going to give us the illusion of 3 dimensions. Okay, so that means this leg, it's the depth. This leg is behind, this leg is in front. So again, about your finger width, and then come back up to meet at the belly. So there's 2 legs. Now we're going to draw our other 2 legs. The great thing about the other 2 legs is we're just going to do the outside of them because the inside is covered by our trunk. So my first leg, I am going to start right after, so about 0.5 centimeter after my back leg, my inside back leg. I'm going to go out into my belly. Okay, out into my belly and then down with a slight curve, and I'm going to end just below this back leg, just below. And have a curve, finger width. You can go up just a little. I'm not going to worry about the inside because my trunk's going to be hiding it. And then I go out to the back or the front side, right side of my elephant, right where my oval starts, and you can draw a line that comes down. This time we're going to bend this leg a little bit. So I'm going to come down on a slight curve, and I'm going to stop about an inch away from where I would meet this guy. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to curl and go into this direction. Go down to the left, and then stop just shy of this leg, and then curl in for my base. And I'm not worrying about the inside because my trunk is going to go there. So here's the basic shapes. Now we're going to start putting a few details in to help us create our elephant. So I'm going to start with drawing the trunk out and then adding the tusks, which will then bring us to the eyes, and then we'll work on the ears. Okay, so let me just bring this back so you can see the original. So we've done the basic shapes right now. Now we're going to start adding detail. We're going to do the trunk, adding the tusks, which brings us into the eyes, and then out the ears. Alrighty? So let's do that. Okay, so our trunk. Our trunk starts on each side of my egg. Okay? It starts, though, on the inside before it curls around. Okay, so I want to go just where you can even stop it, just inside where your bottom of your triangle for your ear is. So I'm going to put a little mark here on each side. This little mark is going to help us because this is also where we are going to create our tusks. Our tusks are going to come out of this area. So on each side of my oval, right where my ears, just up from where my ears meet my oval, I have drawn just 2 little dots, which will help me later. So I'm starting with the left side, and I'm going to come down with my pencil, and I'm going to curve it slightly because I do want my trunk to have a little bit of movement. So I curve it slightly, and then I curve it again, and I come down almost to the bottom where I meet my foot, and I go on an angle down. Okay, so again, left side, draw a slight curve, and then come back out, stop right before I get to the bottom of my foot, draw a curve or an angled line to the right, and then I can go back up. All right, but I'm not gonna go back up yet. I'm going to come down here to the other side of my egg, and I'm going to draw my trunk down. So I'm creating some movement, following, okay, I went a little too wild there. Following my line, so see how this one curved in, so I'm gonna make this guy curve in a little, and then keep going and getting closer to the line and ending where this area was. Now we don't want this to be a perfect point. We want it to be slightly curved because this acts as one of their fingers, this little bottom guy here, okay, bottom of his trunk. Now I am going to go and I'm going to erase those lines because I want my trunk to be fairly light. Okay, so I'm going to erase that, and I'm also going to erase the bottom of my egg. The rest of those lines we can leave because we're going to go darker. All right, so that is the trunk. We'll come back and add details to it in a little bit. what we want to do now is the tusks. So remember I said that these little dots were important. These dots are actually going to be guides for our tusk. So I'm going to create a little triangle in this area. So I'm going to go from my dot up to the left, stop about half a centimeter to a centimeter, and then draw a line to the right that goes right into my oval shape. Okay, right into my oval shape, and then back down to my trunk. Okay, so a little triangle from my dot, go up to the left, about a half centimeter, and then veer off to the right, come up to about halfway where my ear is, come up to a point, and then back down. At this part here, at this top point, I want you to draw an oval shape. Oval. This oval will then have a football shape on the inside. I'm going to get the camera a little closer so you can see. So it's an oval at the top, and there's a football or an almond in it. And then, of course, a pupil, and that is the eye of our elephant. We will add some wrinkles and some darkness to this eye in a little bit. But it just goes with these shapes here, okay? So we've got our triangle, we have our oval with our football or our almond shape, which acts as the eye. Now we want to draw our tusk, which is a curved triangle. So I'm coming back down to the bottom of my tusk skin where my triangle I made, and I'm going to do a curved line, and everybody's tusks are going to be different sizes. Curved line, and it meets at a point. Okay, nice outline. So there is my tusk of my elephant. Everything I did over here, I'm going to repeat and do on the right-hand side. Okay, so that's what we're going to do right now. We start at that dot that we said was really important. We are now going to create a triangle, but this time instead of going to the left, we're going to go to the right. So go right about a half centimeter, and then start working our way up. Try an eyeball to see if you're about the same height as the other one. And then you can come back down to meet your trunk, to meet your trunk. And then on the very top of this, you're going to draw an oval shape, and inside that oval shape, a football with a pupil, which becomes our elephant's eye. And again, we're going to add some detail and some wrinkles and some shading. Okay, so we have the tusk left on this side. So the tusk on this side is going to be exactly like this. It can be slightly turned if you want. It can go inwards if you want, or it can go out. Completely up to you. It is your elephant. So I'm going to curve out. Okay, and the great thing is we're still drawing fairly lightly. So if you end up, making a little mistake, that's okay. You can go back and erase it. Okay, and then modify. So there's my second tusk. And this elephant is looking more and more fierce as we go, which is great. All right. So we have 2 eyes, 2 tusks, and a trunk. And then, of course, 4 legs and a belly and 2 ears. So, speaking of ears, we're going to now actually start creating detail, and we're going to create some shading and blending. So, first thing we're going to do is the left ear. I always work left to right. So, we have the top of the head not quite finished yet. So we want to, from the eye, and you probably have a little bit of the top of the head here left, we're going to go a little higher. So from the eye, you can go on an angle and just create a nice flat top and then meet on an angle down at the other head, or the other eye. So I just raised up his forehead just a little bit. Okay, nothing wrong with that. If yours worked really well, perfect. If not, you can add a little more height. And then we're going to curl the ear. So I'm on the left-hand side. I'm going to curl the ear up, and I'm going to cut off that corner of my triangle. And I'm going to come out past my triangle and then round that out, come down past my dot and work my way around. You might end up being at the same line on this side, which works really well. You can go even further to make bigger ears, or you can make smaller ears, up to you. So again, I was on my left side of my eye, or my head, sorry. I curved to the left up on top of my head. I cut off a little bit of that corner, so I can erase that now. And then I came past my triangle, curved it downwards, past my dot. It can be more of an angle, and then met back up with my bottom line. And any lines you have inside here, you can erase just lightly. We're going to shade this up a little bit. But again, if you want to go bigger with your ears, you can definitely go bigger with your ears. Inside my ear, I do want to add one more line to show dimension. So right out the top of my eye, I'm going to draw a line, the same parallel line as this one here, but instead of going all the way to the end, I'm going to stop a little past halfway. And all of this area underneath and towards my eye, I'm going to shade in. So I'm shading with my pencil, the side of my pencil, not the point, and I'm shading all the way along that bottom line, down past my eye, all the way down to my tusk. And I'm just shading a little space. It's almost like a crescent shape. Shading that in. We're going to blend that out in a few minutes. We have to add some lines on our ear first. So we can add a few little wrinkle lines or cut lines. Their ears are pretty thin, so sometimes they do rip. So I'm going to draw a line that comes out into my line. So I'm inside that shape, and I draw a line to the outside, one line, and then I'm going to draw another one, and see how I'm just slightly curving them a little bit. And then on the bottom, I can draw a line that curves, and I'll do two more. Maybe this guy will curve this way, and then another little one that curves. And then beside each line, you're going to shade in a little bit. Okay, just beside each one, shading a little bit. And then when you are ready, you can use your fingers. I use my fingers to blend. They're free, they're attached to me, and they have oils on them that actually help push some of the lead, which is great. But if you have access to Kleenex, paper towel, Q-tips, whatever, they work as well. So I'm going to start blending. Okay, I'm mixing that lead into the white paper, switching my fingers because my fingers have different oil glands. Okay, right up to the eye. If you end up going into the eye a little bit, that's okay. So I'm blending, I'm pushing the lead from those lines that I did, pushing it all around, filling in my whole entire ear with some shadow, even at the top area. Okay, filling that all in. And once that's filled in, you can outline a few. Okay, I'm just going and outlining a little if you find that you've lost some in the blending. But the great thing is we're going to hit some highlights using the back of our pencil, which is our eraser. And beside each line, I draw a line out of eraser. Okay. In between, up top. Okay, and then you erase all of that, and then it pops out. If you find that in here it's not dark enough, down where the eye is, you can always go back with a second layer of shading. Okay, and you can softly shade that. And then I add a few little wrinkles right up here, just a few little lines that are curved, just to give the illusion of my elephant having little wrinkles. And we're gonna add some wrinkles along the way. So there's one ear. Now we're going to create the second ear. Same thing that we've done, but this time we're going to do it on this side. So again, I'm starting on the side of my head. I curl up. This time, I don't have as high of a corner, so I must have measured that, you know, perfectly. So I'm coming out just past where my curve is. I'm rounding it down, coming to my point, and then rounding it around again down to my tusk. All right, erase all of these bits. I don't need them anymore. And then I go to my eye, the top of my eye, and I draw a line that's parallel to this one, and I stop just past halfway through this shape. That's where I start blending, or shading, not blending. Shade all around the eye. Oops, I went into the skin a little bit. We'll do that later. You don't want to color right there, but along the eye, down where the tusk is, up under that line. Okay, you want to make that nice and dark because that gives the illusion that the ear is folding, and then this is the inner ear. Okay, so I have that colored in. Now I want to create those little lines that are in the elephant's ear that show that either they're folding, they're floppy, okay, or they're broken. Some of them even are broken, so if you want to put a little broken part on there, you can. Okay, you decide how you want your ear to look. And on each of those lines, I shade just a little strip. There we go. And then the fun begins. Using my fingers, I start blending. Blend it down, blend it up, blend it all the way around, switching my fingers as I go because I am making sure that I have some good texture. Okay, the switching fingers allows more oil to be released, and it'll pull some more of that lead. So some parts, as you can see, are a little lighter and some are darker. Okay, and then if you blended some of your lines out, you can go back and outline if you feel you need to, and darken up any spots that you find need to be darker. And then with the back of your pencil, the eraser, you can draw little eraser lines on each of those little flaps, especially at the top. Okay, and that will give the illusion that it's moving, it's three-dimensional, there's different parts to it. And then I add a few little wrinkle lines coming out of the top of the ear. And there you go. There is your elephant's ears. Awesome. Hope yours is going well. Alrighty, so now we're going to move top to bottom, and we're going to work on his trunk and his face, his eyes, that sort of thing. So remember when I said these oval shapes are going to change a little bit. What we're going to do is we're actually going to wrinkle them up. So I'm just bringing my phone down so you can see. tripod right on there. There we go. Now you can see a little closer. So in each eye, I'm going to wrinkle back and forth. Okay, make that eye itself. So on the top part of the eye, I wrinkle like a sad face. And on the bottom of the eye, I wrinkle happy faces. Okay, so there's one. Top of the eye, wrinkle sad faces. Bottom of the eye, wrinkle happy faces. Now, if you end up shading it in accidentally, that's fine. I just did that to that one, my pencil. I wasn't using the tip. Okay, so next thing we do, this little bit under the eye, the side of his face, I outline that and I just color it in lightly. Outline that side of his face and color that in lightly. Now on to your tusks. You're going to color in your tusk, and you can color it darker where it meets the trunk. Okay, and then blend it with your finger and then outline it again because you probably lost the outline. Outline it again. And then on this side you outline the tusk. Okay, so there, the trunk. So you have a little bit of lightness and a little bit of darkness in the tusk skin area, which brings us down to the tusk itself, which doesn't need much because it's white. So if you have fingers that are dirty already from our blending, I would just use that and blend down a little bit, push that lead around, outline it, nice and crisp. And then with the back of my pencil, my eraser, I'm going to use it and I'm going to draw a line with my eraser. And that will give us that bright white of our tusk. So everything we did over here, these three little sections, you can do over here. So we colored in right under his eye. We colored in the tusk skin area, darker to where it meets the trunk. Blend it if you need to. Outline it. Outline the trunk area where it meets. And then lightly shade in that tusk. Outline it nice and slow. And then of course with my eraser, I am going to add a little highlight to it. So there we go. It's coming along. He looks like an elephant. All right, so we're going to now shade this whole entire area. We're going to concentrate though on shading along the side of the trunk on each side, and then we're going to push all of that shading into his forehead, into the top of his trunk, and then into the middle. So I'm going to, at the side of my pencil, I'm shading in the side of his trunk. Okay, and you can shade it maybe two layers of shade. So that means going over it twice. Okay, on each side. Go over it a couple times. All the way down. You can get a little wider too and go around the eye here because we're going to push all of that shading or lead into the whole entire face. Okay, so I've colored in the sides a little bit. If you want to go darker, you can. If you want to go lighter, you can. And now with my fingers, I'm going to start blending all the way back and forth between my trunk. Okay, so you might have to go a couple of times over your lead and really force that lead to the center. Okay, so I'm switching fingers. I'm using the sides of my fingers, the front of them, and you can see that they're dirty, so they're creating a little more lead in the center. So I just keep going, and you should have enough to go all the way up into his forehead and up to the top of his head, and rub that side to side. If you need to involve your pinky into some small areas, you can do that too. Okay, so now he is very close to the same color of his ears, which is great. If you want to add more darkness on the side because you blended too much, you can do that. I'm just going to go down with one more level of darkness. And again, it's personal preference. Okay. And what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you create all of the rings up his trunk. Okay. And what we're going to do is we are going to draw the rings as happy faces all the way down, but we are going to start at the tusks on each side. So at the tusks, I'm going to draw a big line that is a happy face. Okay, it's a smile. It looks like a smile on him. Above that, we're going to go the other direction, but we'll wait and do that in a second. What we're going to do now is we're going to keep going with these happy faces all the way down, and they're going to be spaced out a little more at the top, but as we get down to the center, down to the bottom, they actually get closer and closer. So I'm just going back and forth. I'm not even lifting my pencil. I'm just going back and forth, and I leave a little bit of space. This way I'm not perfectly matching the spaces, okay? This way I have a little bit of control, but it makes it look more natural that they're not evenly spaced. Okay, it makes it look more like he's moving. And I'm going side to side, side to side. Some are closer. As you get down towards the bottom, try your best to get them closer together. All the way down, and I stop before I go into this little front part of his trunk. And then I re-outline the whole side of the trunk, the outline of the trunk. The contour is the actual art word, the contour of his trunk. There's one side, and there's the other side. Take your time, there's no rush. Okay, and then with my eraser, I'm going to take my eraser and I'm just going to run a little line right down the center of my trunk, so it looks like there's a little bit of a shine to it. Now it looks funny right now because we haven't done those lines to the top of his head. So right now he's like smiling strangely. Okay, so we are going to fix that by adding some lines to the top. Okay, so here we go. We are going to now leave a large space, and that shows us that our trunk is moving. I'm going to go with upside down smiles, sad faces. All right, so I'm going to go like this to meet that side. I'm going to go up again. Okay, so these ones are definitely spaced out. I'm going to do another one. And then I do one last one, getting lighter up by his eyes. And then in here, I'm just going to do a few little lines to show that he's wrinkly. And then you can go back, and I'm going to just show you a little trick. I go back and I just run my pencil just over this whole section with some little faint lines, and that gives the illusion of wrinkles. Okay, just over the whole trunk. All right, there we go. And you can, if you want, erase a little bit on that really front ring of the trunk and on top of his head with just a little bit of eraser marks. And again, if you want to go darker on some sides, that changes, especially down where his eye and his tusk meet. the darker you go, it changes the style or the age of the elephant, okay? He looks a little more aged if you add a little more darkness. So again, you can go back. So see how I'm just going back and adding a little darkness around the eyes, down where the tusk is. I'm just roughing him up a little more so he looks a little more aged. Okay, completely your choice though if you want to do that. Okay, so there is our elephant's face, our elephant's ears, and our elephant's trunk. All right, I'm going to move the camera back and raise it up because we are going to work on the rest of the body. Okay, there we go. So we have done a lot of the intricate details. We can now go and we can create the body with some shading, with some blending, and a little bit of wrinkles. So I'll show you on here. So we've got some shading, and I'll show you those spots that are dark and light, and we'll add some blending to blend all of those together, and then we might add a couple wrinkles here and there to make him look like a wrinkly elephant. All right, so that's what we're gonna do now. So we're going to start with the underbelly. This whole section of underbelly is dark, okay? The underbelly will stop though halfway into this leg. So you know how we have our circle or our oval that comes around? Well, we're going to outline this oval from the front leg, and we're going to stop halfway into this leg here. We're going to stop there. So this shows that this is the front back leg. This is the back leg, the one that's in the back. All right, and then these are the two front legs. So this here is going to be all dark. So with the side of your pencil, you can start coloring that in. And I would color it with 3 or 4 layers of your pencil because it's fairly dark. Right up to that arm. Okay, coloring. And like I said, you're gonna go over a couple of times, nice and dark, right along where that arm and the belly meet. That's nice and dark as well. Using the side of your pencil. There. We're also going to add some darkness under where his ear is because the ear is casting a shadow. So we're just going to use our pencil and go under his ear and along that tusk a little bit. We don't want to go too far down the tusk because the rest of that is this front leg. We're not there yet. But certainly under the ear, it's casting a shadow. Okay. The rest of him, you can do a light coat of your pencil. So see how I'm just doing a very light coat of that pencil. Okay, especially in the bum area. And now we blend using all 3 fingers or 4, but I'm using the 3 and I'm switching in between them because they have different oils. And I'm starting to blend in the belly and I'm pushing that belly upwards to create the shape that I'm looking for, which is darkness, lightness, and then darkness under the ear. So push, push, push. Along this line, I'm using both my ring finger and my middle finger, and I'm pushing. Once in a while, use your index finger. Okay, mixing that around the butt area. So see how already it's transforming and you're seeing a really good mix of lights and darkness to create your shape of your belly. All right, I'm happy with that, so I'm hoping you are as well. Now we're gonna go down into this leg. So again, where the leg and the belly meet, we want that dark. We don't want to lose this line though. So if you can outline that line and keep that nice and dark, we don't want to lose that line. So I'm going to shade in this corner. Okay, down the leg a little bit. Just in this corner. And I'm also going to shade in this back area. Just a little bit. So, and then the rest I do a very light, quick color, and then blend it all. So blending underneath where the belly and the leg meet, down the leg, switching my fingers as I go, may even introduce my little pinky finger right up into that area. So the whole leg now is colored, and you have some lights and some darks. So you can now outline the bum area all the way down to the leg. Outline that. And before we outline the bottom, we're gonna add those 3 nails. So they're half circles, so there's 1 half circle, 2 half circle, 3, and I'm going to outline them really dark, and I'm even gonna put a little bit of darkness, a little bit of shading in between each one, okay? And then bring that line underneath. Okay, so we see the bottom of their foot, and then I can finish by outlining the inside of that leg. And before I finish that, that is where I'm going, before I finish this leg, this is where I'm going to put some wrinkles. So you can have some wrinkles going inside the leg, okay, down. You can create wrinkles that come out of the side, and twisted wrinkles coming out from under the belly. Okay, you can decide how many wrinkles, and I'm going with a few light wrinkles here and there. Nice and wrinkly. And if it's not dark enough, we can always go back and darken it up. Okay. All right. So there's leg number 1. Leg number 2, the inside, is the darkest of all the legs. So you can really darken it up where the belly and the leg meet, because this is that really, really dark space that we can't really see anything. So I'm going really dark in there, and then the rest of it is a little lighter, but still much darker than that other leg. Color that down. We'll still do the toes. Still darkening that up, especially up at the top where it meets that belly. Okay, and when I'm satisfied, I'm going to use my finger and I'm just going to blend it out a little bit to get rid of some of the pencil lines. And I'm going to outline. And while I'm outlining, that's where you can put some wrinkles along the side. Before I start outlining the bottom, I'm going to add my 3 nails. Outline them really well, even add some darkness in between. And then outline the bottom. Okay, and then outline with a few wrinkles. And the outlines, they don't have to be straight. If you want to come back and do these outlines and add a little bit of wrinkle to them, then you can do that. All right, it does not have to be a straight outline. Okay, and you can darken the side. If there's any spots that are just not quite dark enough for you, you can add them. Okay, so there's leg number 2. And we're still working away. Leg number 3, the one that's closest to us. We are going to color the whole thing in, darker up at the tusk area and along the trunk. Okay, the whole thing. And then we'll come back down and finish this area, and I'm going to show you some other wrinkles we can do for here. So coloring that in, darker at the tusk. So be careful not to go into the tusk. And on the outside of the tusk, we want it a little darker as well. And dark where that line, where it meets the belly, you can darken that up. And we'll add, so I just realized we didn't add any wrinkles to the belly. We can do that in a few minutes. I really darken it up along where the tusk is because that, or the trunk, sorry, because that allows the trunk to pop out. Okay, and then the rest, just coloring. There are some white spots, and I'm okay with that because I'm gonna blend. All right, the blending will take care of that. And I'm going to color the bottom in, but I'll add the toes in a little bit. All right, blending. Be careful that tusk. All right, if you end up going into the tusk a little bit, you can always go back and erase. Blend, blend, blend right down to the bottom. We can outline, and as we outline, you can add, you know, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight outline. It can be a little wrinkly all the way down to the bottom. And then you can start putting your toenails in there. Okay, 3 toenails outlined. A little bit of darkness in between, and then outline the bottom. There we go. Now for the wrinkles here, what I did is I wrinkled back and forth like I did my trunk up to the knee, and then at the knee I changed directions. So it was smiley faces at the bottom, and at the knee I went back up with a few of these sad faces. And then I changed and kind of got a little wrinkly up here. Same with the bottom here. Just a few little lines here and there create that wrinkle. Now I mentioned we would come back and add some wrinkle to the belly. We can definitely do that. So see how I'm coming right out of the ear and I'm adding these little squiggly lines that are going in different directions. These are the wrinkles on your elephant, and the belly has some wrinkles, so you can draw these little squiggly lines underneath the belly to show the saggy skin. And then out the bum area, I added these little wrinkles. And it just kind of roughs up the skin a little bit so she looks, or he looks, like he's a little wrinkly. All right, one more leg. All right, so this leg here, we're going to color it in, and we're going to stick to darkness along the trunk and under the tusk. Okay, so darkness going over that area 2 or 3 times to make it nice and dark. And then as we go down, we get a little lighter, but along that trunk, keep that nice and dark. Color it all in. We're going to accentuate that knee because the knee on this one really bends. Okay, we're going to add a little highlight to it. So I've colored it in. Now I'm going to blend all the way up into the tusk. If you go out of the lines like I just did here, don't worry about it. We're going to be adding some darkness to the background. Okay, and when you're happy with that, you can outline it. Again, your outline can be a little shaky so it looks like wrinkle, but you're following the original outline. Come down to the bottom. You can add your toenails. I can only see 2 on mine, so you might get lucky and only have to do 2. And then the bottom outline. And like I said, closer to the trunk, you want it to be darker so that the trunk really pops out. So I'm adding a little more darkness towards that trunk so it pops right out. Blend that out. And then the wrinkles for this one, especially in this knee area. This knee area, we're really going to accentuate. So see how I've done 2 lines, one underneath, smiley face, one on top, sad face, and then you continue that little pattern down. And then with the back of my eraser, I'm just going to erase a little highlight just to show that that knee is folding. Okay, and then I finish up with a few little wrinkly lines that go up into his body. And the very last thing we do with our elephant is we add the tail right out the back. Okay, tail right out the back, a curved line down. It is thicker towards the bum area and then gets thinner. And it finishes off with a series of curved and squiggly lines back and forth in add different pressure. So some might be light, some might be dark, and then you can have some poking out the side. Okay, you can add those lines. So there's the elephant's tail. Now the elephant's complete, but I always tell my students to make sure that there's no floating objects. So right now my elephant is floating, so we need to ground him. We're gonna ground him with this little African scene. And I learned today that these trees are called acacia trees. I'm gonna raise this up so you can see the whole thing. These trees are acacia trees. Okay, so we're going to learn to draw these right now. So first I'm going to start by adding a horizon line. So you can decide where you want your horizon line. It can be up higher than he is, it can be lower. I like to keep it in the lower half, so I'm gonna go straight across with my line, obviously not drawing through my elephant, but certainly keeping an eye that the horizon line is fairly straight. And I'm gonna darken that line up on each section, darken that up, and I'm going to darken this whole space below, especially around where he is standing. So I'm using the side of my pencil and I'm going in between each foot and trunk with a little bit of a shade. And I'm going to come back and blend all of that out, but I'm going in between his feet up a little bit to cast that shadow, because we are going to draw a sun, and that sun is going to be beating down on him and casting this lovely shadow. And then you can even have some of that background, just lightly, a little bit of shade in between. And we're gonna control this shade by blending. Okay, so I've colored it in. Now with my trusty blending fingers, I'm going to go side to side, up and down, switching my fingers. And I apologize for my camera shaking while I do this. Switching fingers as I go so that that releases all of the oils. You can even throw your thumb in there, you haven't used it, all the way around. Give it a nice good blend. And of course, if you want to add more, you can. The darker, it's completely up to you. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do the acacia tree, and then we'll add the sun, and then we'll be done. So the tree, I'm going to do just one over here, and you can do another one on the back if you want, or a couple small ones. First thing I start with is just a line, and my line is on an angle. Okay, so there's my line. And this line, I'm gonna come a little closer so you can see. This line is going to be the trunk of my tree. So of course I want to thicken this line up. So I'm going to add a little bit of pencil on one side and really curve it down at the base. And then I'm going to draw another few pencil strokes on the other side, curve it at the base. The great thing about these trees is they're flat tops. Okay, so you don't have to do the really round, perfect tree that we see here in Canada, our maple trees, okay? We're going to do a flat top. So how we do that is we create fingers for the tree. We create little limbs by going up from the middle and thickening it up, and then I might have a few little shoots coming up the top. So there's one finger. Then I go next to it and I draw another finger, and it can go up a little higher and it has a shoot as well. There's two fingers. I can go right up the center, and notice I'm staying around the same height. I'm not going up higher or lower. Staying around the same height, adding these little shoots as we go. I'm going to draw another one, curved, has these little shoots, maybe a shoot coming out this way. He's thicker. So I'm happy with those. On top of them, we have the flat top of your leaves. So the great thing is you can draw the outline of this flat top going right along where they all meet. They might curve just slightly, and then right out the side, and then up just above it, not very thick. Okay, not very thick at all. And then you can color it all in nice and dark because it's a silhouette. Once in a while I might have a little piece that goes up to create a little more depth, but it's certainly not round like we're used to. Nice, color that in. So there's one. You can do as many as you would like in the background. Okay. The last thing I'm going to show you is the sun, and I'm going to show you on my original first. The sun is created using negative space. The sun is the negative space. The outside, the sky, is the positive space for us. Normally it's the other way around. This time we're not going to draw anything in the sun. We're going to draw a slight faint line around, and then we're going to shade all the way around the sun and shade the sky. So the sun this time is the negative space, okay? So you can decide where you want your sun. It can be above his head, it can be below, like just in the corner. It can be right out the top, left side, which is where mine's going to be for now. So I draw a very faint circle, very faint. You don't want to see the line of that circle. Okay, and then around that circle, you want to shade. So you're going to shade, not too dark, just lightly. Okay, just shade lightly. And then when you're with your fingers, which already has some shading from earlier, which is great, you're going to use that to your advantage. You're going to shade all the way around your sun. If you go into your sun a little bit, that's okay, because we're creating a blur, a fade, okay? A nice hazy sun. So there is our sun. All of this space here, you can use your pencil and just lightly shade all the way around. And then you can go with your finger and blend all of that out. Blend, blend, blend. And you already have some lead on your finger, so use that. Try and wipe it into your page. Okay, go through every one that you've drawn on there and blend it out so that it's a nice soft sky. Okay, and then the last bit, you can add a few birds, little V-shaped birds, these little guys. Okay, as many as you want. And then you sign your piece. So I'm gonna sign on my horizon line between my elephant and my tree. And voila, you are finished. So we have drawn an elephant in an hour. So I'm hoping you're happy with yours. Thank you so much for joining. I do these live sessions every Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. on Instagram at SG_ArtSloan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I will keep pushing some more videos, so keep checking back. Have a great day. Bye now.